Nee, ik zou het ook niet mogen. Wat ben je going to? Wow, that's only chopped down. I couldn't see the view anymore. Ah, just a load of junk. When I put the big coat on for Walter Frey, and the lady doing the wardrobe, she said, David, wear it, wear it. I said, I am bloody wearing it. I am. She said, no, wear it. And what she meant was, own it. Make it you. It's not something that's a big costume that you just happen to be carrying. But you got to act as though this is a familiar garment, no matter how big and heavy it is. And as soon as I got that, I found Walter Frey. Sometimes it's harder than others, depending on what you play. And Walter Frey, for some reason, I don't know if that says more about me than the story, but I got it straight away. As soon as I read the script, I thought, I know exactly how to play this. And that's rather alarming, isn't it? Mr. Filch I found that really quite hard, because I would try doing a Scottish accent because the author was Scottish, and it didn't feel right. I tried playing him as Yorkshire, and my daughter, who was helping me, she said, no, doesn't sound like this, try something else. So I did it like that, my company, you know what I mean? And that worked out here, we are in trouble, you know. Playing William Hartnell in Adventure in Space and Time was probably the most challenging and therefore the most enjoyable, because when I was given the script by Mark Gatiss, I found him quite, I've mentioned this before, that this is a complex person with many different facets, and at the same time there's a responsibility that goes with playing someone who actually lived and worked, and someone I admired so much as an actor, but at the same time he's got children, grandchildren, and I wanted them to be, so I felt a responsibility to do a good job. But whether they liked or not some of the facets of that character, that was, I just had to do what was in front of me. And we did a 90-minute film in 3.5 weeks. That's quite a challenge, you know. And the fact that it turned out so well, and there were nobody was saying, you're doing this wrong, or it's not working, or whatever. Everybody was focused on the work, and we made a good job of it, I think. And I found him such a fascinating character, and it was so gratifying when his family said, yeah, you got him, and they were grateful. Even some of the more negative sides to his character, they accepted that. I started at 15 doing just as part of a youth club, and luckily it was a youth club that was quite strong on drama. If you're in a group of generous people who also love doing it, that's the best start you can possibly have. And I would say, stay humble, be kind, treat people. If I'm working in whether it's a stage or on a film studio, I may be the one in front of the camera, but that doesn't give me any right to tell people what to do. I realize I'm working with camera crew, lighting people, costume people, sound people. There's so many people doing so many different jobs, especially on a big film. And I think you have to realize that you're just a cog in the wheel, and just enjoy working with people, and don't think of yourself as working for people. Just enjoy the pleasure of the company and have a laugh. Whatever you do, have a laugh. Yeah. He was a family man in the sense that he was responsible for 30 children, however many he had. So he had to show that he was still powerful and to be feared, because, as I said, that is the world that he lived in, and he had to do what he did. It wasn't very nice, of course. But, you know, that's how he responded. There was something about him that made me laugh. There was a kind of comic horror to what he did and the pleasure he took in doing it. Here's a man who's got about 30 odd children who he's got to marry off. He was betrayed, really, by the Starks. They'd promised something. They reneged on the promise. So he had to show in the world that he lived in that he was a force to be reckoned with. And you don't let an insult go by in that world. Otherwise, people would lose respect. He would probably just fade away into obscurity or be killed because people would take advantage of that. He's a product of his times. He is a warlord, and he's got a reputation to keep up. It could be the mafia, but they've all have to keep up the respect and admiration of people. Otherwise, they're dead meat. I wanted to be Snape. Mind you, he was the same, but it was more fun than I expected it to be. And one of them said, "You remind me of our caretaker at school." And I thought, can you imagine having a caretaker like Filch in real life? But the fact is, there are people like that. We call them, have you heard the word jobs worth? Some people, you give them a uniform or a badge, and they start behaving as if they own the place, you know. What he feared was the kids. He was frightened because, in the end, there was the kids who had all this power and magic. And as you know, Filch is a squid, and he can't do any magic, so he's frightened of what these kids can do. That's why he enjoys putting them in detention or whatever. Simon Pegg said, "We need you to come back, because we want to make it, so we want you to come back dead."
Yes.
So they had me in the studio, and I can't remember what it was.
Yeah.
Just lying there beside an exploded sea mine.
Oh.
And they got these black rats to walk all over my face, down my collar, and they picked these rats. They were specially bred, but they were like based on the plague rats.
Christ.
From like medieval times, and they bred them specially.
Oh, yeah.
And that was so unpleasant. Can you imagine trying to play down and keep still while these things oh, Fuzz. Now, that was such a fun job. Can you imagine?
Yes.
Working with those guys. It's the only time a director has ever said to me, "David, we're going to have to do another take. I can still understand what you're saying."